What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Magnetik here. So if you liked the video, make sure you hit the subscribe button and then touch the notification bell so you know the next time I have a video coming out. Alright, let's get to it. What's good, YouTube? It's your boy Magnetik here. So right now I'm doing a tutorial for you about how to master a track properly. So the thing that a lot of people get wrong when it comes to mastering is the order that they do things in. One of the main things is with mastering, it's got to be loud because, we're doing dance music or rock music or whatever, but I'm doing dance music and it's got to be loud. So the first thing you want to do is have a spectrum analyzer on here. So I'm using Ableton. So the spectrum analyzer Ableton is actually pretty cool if you know how to set it up. So make sure it's set up to 16,000 whatever blocks, and this makes it so that it's really accurate on what you see. Then make sure the range, when you load it up, is usually set to auto. So like when you hit play, it does that, and then it just kind of moves around, and I don't know, that's just pretty unusable. So you change it from auto down here to a range, and I always want to set it so the top of the range is like 1, and then you want the bottom of the range to be more like maybe 24. Yeah, 24 is usually pretty good, because the main thing I use this for is checking my subs, because the reality of the situation is that most of us do not have speakers that replicate the sub frequencies very well. I mean, I have a pair of the Yamaha HS8s that I use, and they're better than what I had before, but they don't even do it justice completely either. It's not like a mastering engineer's gear, if you know what I'm saying. So we need to use spectrum analyzers so that you can see what you can't hear. So right now this isn't going to register that well because the limiter isn't on. So first thing I do is have the spectrum analyzer, and then I turn on my limiter so that the RMS is around -8. I always use Pro L because well, it just sounds the best, so I just do that most of the time. Other than that, I might use the isotope one, ozone. But for the most part, this is what I use most of the time. So I turn it up, turn it on first. When the day breaks, the sun will shine, and when the earth quakes, you'll be mine. So as you can see, it's at -8-ish around there, the RMS, which is what we're looking for. So that's up there. And if you look at my frequency, the spectrum, my subs, let's see. When the day breaks, the sun will shine, and when the earth quakes. So the subs are hovering somewhere between 12 and what's this, -7.92. So what's that, -8, around there. So this is obviously too low if you want this to be bumping in the club. If you want your tracks to be bumping in the club, the sub has to be hovering around -6. So it can go a little bit above, maybe up to -4. Any more than that, and then you might blow a speaker. It's not like most tracks. Most tracks that are bumping, they're really between like -5, maybe -4, and maybe -9. It doesn't go any lower than that. If it goes lower than that, it's not going to be it's not really going to be bumping. But if it goes too high, then it's just going to be muddy, and that's no good either. So somewhere in this range. So then the first thing I did after I put the limiter on so I could see that is let's see, I put my Fab Filter EQ on. So what I always do is I always cut below 20 hertz. So this is at 23 and 72 dB per octave. So a really steep cut. Essentially, you want to do a really steep cut below 30 hertz to get rid of all the rumbling information that you don't really need. All it's going to do is clog it up so that your compressors and everything don't work so well. You could go a little bit higher. It depends on what the lowest note is of your song. So like if you look here, you hit this button on Fat Filters and it gives you the actual notes that's related to the frequencies. So this song is in E minor. So whatever cut I do has to be below the E. And the frequency for E is 41 hertz. So it's got to be below that. And I think sometimes the note goes down to C. So that's 33 hertz. So it's got to be lower than these. Let's get rid of that. I don't need that. So yeah, the other thing I do is I always mono my bass. You don't want to have the sub frequencies in stereo, because then it's just not going to be bumping. It's going to be terrible. When you put it in the club and you monitor bass, you just might not have any more bass, and then you're gonna be like, what the hell happened to my song? So I put, this is mid-side EQ, so I cut the sides up to 170 hertz. Now I played around with that. Sometimes I only do it down at let's see, is this something? Yeah, sometimes I only do it down to 100. Sometimes I do it at 120. Sometimes I do it at 170. It just depends on the song, but for this song it sounded best at 170. So then I boosted 22 kilohertz because it needed to be a little bit brighter. The song wasn't bright enough. So then I always put a cut around 18 kilohertz. Again, it's so that you can make your track loud and not be piercing to people when you're in the club, because my music is played on big speakers. So that's why I did that. So let's play it before and after. Breaks, the sun will shine. Actually, let's put it on the drop. We'll be the thunder. We shake the world, you and I. All right, so you see how that works. That just cleaned it up, tightened it up a little bit, made it a little bit brighter. The next thing I do is I want to glue it together. So I am a T-Rex lover right now. So I am using their bus compressor. This is essentially an SSL compressor, but it's pretty dope because, you know, it's got the regular stuff. You do the long attack, 30 milliseconds. And then I usually do the second shortest release. This is 0.3, so I think that's 300 milliseconds, something like that. But this is the one I like the best on my master. It has the high pass thing, which is pretty dope. I didn't use it on this though. But what really makes it cool is this grip button. This right here adds some kind of distortion that really helps to glue the track together. So I'm gonna play it with and without so you can hear it. So if you hear with it, it glues it together a little bit more. It has a little bit of distortion to it, so that again, it glues it together more and just adds some life to the song. The next thing I did was I wanted some distortion again. So I go back to the beginning and I use Waves NLS. I put it on, this is the SSL emulation one. Didn't really do much to it, just put it on. It created a vibe, so I turned it on. It sounded better, and so I left it. Let's hear it on and off. So it's pretty subtle, but it again brings it into focus. It adds some distortion, and it has like this little mid-range thing that helps everything knock. Let's see here. The next thing I put on was this. Again, T-Rex. I love T-Rex. This is their Pultec. Now my sub is not high enough. If you look here, this is down, what's this, -8. This goes up to -6. And then my mid-range, I could use a little bit more of more oomph in my lower mids. So I chose to use the Pultec emulation. And I just boosted 60 hertz, 2.8. I don't know how many hertz that is. I mean, how many dB that it is, but you know, I just boosted it to the sounding right, and I could look at the spectrum analyzer to see how far up it goes. Now I also made it a little bit brighter, put it on 12 kilohertz, and boosted at 3.1. with a bandwidth of around 8, 7.8, whatever. It just sounded good, so this is what I did. You see that? And it adds some kind of distortion to it again. Some kind of vibe to it that makes it work really well. The next thing I do is I always, every time, I put the Kramer tape. That's my tape emulation. Well, I didn't make it, but it's a Waves one. I use it all the time, like every mix. So I have a really sophisticated way of doing this. I hit the load button and I go for the preset, mastering big and open. That's it. I just put it there, leave it. That's what I put on all of my mixes. It's a big part of my sound, actually. Yeah. So I'm gonna turn it on and just hear what it on and off. So if you hear it, it definitely adds some more distortion, and it actually adds a high end to it that's like you can't really get with EQ. It's really crisp. It's a really nice sound and high end, almost like you boosted the EQ, but it's just Kramer tape. Yeah, that's what it was. So after I did that, I wanted to tighten my sub and make sure that it's not going too high and it's not too low. Just keeping it in this nice little narrow area, because again, this gotta be bumping in the club. I want people to feel it in their chest. You know what I'm saying? That rumble that you feel is like a that's because of the sub. So I'll put a multi-band compressor on here. And all I did was tighten the lows. Now there's a 91 hertz. Yeah, let's hear it. So if you hear what that did, it literally just made it so that any of the sub frequencies that was going too high, it brought it down, and any of the ones were too low, it brought it up. So now it's even sitting in more of a little a narrower space, you know, and it brings the low end of the kick drum together with the sub, so now they feel more like one unit as opposed to being two separate things. That sometimes is a good thing, sometimes that's not so good. It depends on the mix. You just got to go by how it feels, you know. Then if you look, the foul filter plugin was getting negative 6.8 dB of compression on the limiter. Now it seems like it's handling it pretty okay, but I kind of wanted to give it a little bit more, give it a little bit of a help so that it doesn't just like tweak out or anything. So what I did was I put a clipper plugin on. Again, T-Rax, this sounds great. This again adds distortion in a nice way, and it helps me make my my song louder without it sounding bad. So let's see how this sounds. Yeah, it doesn't make that big of a difference, but I've been doing it so long, and it helps boost that volume without it sounding bad. So you know, I just use it, and it seemed to work this time, so I stuck with it. So essentially, that's about it. So the main things that you want to have is you need this limiter, you need a spectrum analyzer so you can see the frequencies that you can't hear with your speakers. It's essential if you don't have a listening environment that that everybody says that you need. You gotta treat your rooms, and you gotta get the $10,000 monitors and just spend all of this damn money that ain't nobody got. You feel me? So spectrum analyzer, limiter, okay. Then you gotta have a bus compressor. I like this one. Ableton has one that's really good. The glue compressor is fine. I just like this one. There are many that you could use. Sometimes a Fairchild works. Sometimes was it the Dynamu? Well, it's a whole bunch of stuff. So you need that. I like Fab Filter. I probably could have done everything in terms of EQ with this Fab Filter plugin, but you know, I like the other stuff too. But yeah, Fab Filter is where it's at. You need that. I probably could have done it with Ableton's, but you need something that is what's a digital EQ that you can, that's really flexible for mastering, especially. Now if you have some kind of distortion plugin, that's perfect. I use the Kramer tape. I got the NLS. But you know, just find one that you really like, go for it. Isotopes is dope too. And if you need multi-band compression, go for it. Main thing is keep your sub in this area, and then make sure all the frequencies balance out so it still sounds good, like they work together. Yeah, so that right there is my approach to mastering. So if you like what you heard, like what you saw, make sure you hit the button below to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you'll know next time I release a video. And check out my music. I release a new music video every month, and you can check me out on Spotify too. It's Wave Magnetik with a K. And yeah, I got new merch in the store. Just go to www.wavemagnetik.bigcartel.com, and you can pick up the new hoodies and whatnot that I got, new trumpet tees and stuff. So all right, now see you on the next one. Peace.